Our report is all about family systems therapy. What is family systems therapy? Family systems therapy. This therapy aims to differentiate self within a system and to understand one's family of origin. Ibig sabihin, dito sa therapy na ito, dito mo malalaman ang pinagkaiba ng iyong sarili sa isang sistema o isang pamilya at para mapalawak o maunawaan pa ang pamilyang iyong pinagmulan. At tinutulungan nito ang isang individual na mag-function sa isang relationship at kung paano sila magbe-behave sa isang family. Family system therapy has 6 contributors. First, Alfred Adler. Alfred Adler, he was the first psychologist of the modern era to do family therapy using a systematic approach. He set up more than 30 child guidance clinics in Vienna after World War I. And later, Rudolf Dreikurs brought this concept to the United States in the form of family education centers. Ang ginawa ni Alfred Adler na therapy is Adlerian family therapy. Na kung saan, ang Adlerian therapy is parang nakafocus or ang goal niya ay maayos ang behavior ng isang tao. Ang Adlerian family therapist ay nakafocus sa client sa pagpapalawak ng pakikipag-ugnayan ng isang individual sa pamilya at sa pattern ng isang komunikasyon nila. Second is Murray Bowen, was the one of the original developers of mainstream family therapy. Much of his theory and practice grew out of his work at the National Institute of Mental Health and later at Georgetown University with schizophrenic individuals in the family. Ang na-contribute naman ni Murray Bowen ay multi-generational family therapy, na kung saan si Murray Bowen din ay isang pioneer ng family therapy. Sa multi-generational family therapy na to, may dalawa siyang objectives. Ang una, to help members develop a rational, non-creative approach to living called a differentiation of self. Second, to detangle family interactions that involve two people pulling a third person into the couple's problems and arguments called triangulation. Pakinggan nyo yung story ko na about kay Michael, Martha, at Amy, which is example siya ng multi-generational family theory. Masaya sina Michael at Martha sa unang 2 taon nilang pagsasama. Michael likes to make decisions, ngunit hindi niya pinapalagay na alam niya ang best. Alam niya yung pinaka-the best sa family. Palagi niyang sinasabi kay Martha ang iniisip niya at pinakikinggang niyang mabuti ang mga idea nito. Ang kanilang palitan ay karaniwang pinag-isipan at humantong sa mahalagang interes ng 2 tao. Namuhay si Martha ayon sa isang alituntunin na siya ang responsable sa lahat ng bagay. Hindi niya inakala na karaniwang alam ni Michael ang best. Nagbuntis si Martha. May ilang problema sa katawan niya, ngunit hinarap niya ito ng may pagkakatulad. Mayroon siyang mga takot na nararamdaman. Kinausap niya si Michael about dito at hindi niya inaasahan na malulutas ito. Si Michael ay nakikinig lamang. Nakilala ni Michael ang sariling mga takot tungkol sa pagbabago sa kanilang buhay. Ipinanganak si Amy. Napagod si Martha sa ilang buwan na pag-aalaga. Patuloy niyang kinausap si Michael tungkol sa kanyang iniisip at hindi pa rin niya ramdam na may gagawin ito para mas napasaya siya. Dumami ang pressure ni Michael sa trabaho. Nang tanungin ni Martha si Michael kung okay lang ay totoo ang sagot nito. Pagkalipas ng ilang buwan, nagawa nila ang mga bagay ng mag-isa. Nalaman ni Martha na nag-aalala siya sa pagiging isang ina at hindi siya gaano nag-aalala kay Amy. Habang lumalaki si Amy, hindi napansin ni Martha na isang batang hindi sigurado na kailangan ng espesyal na atensyon. Positibo siya kay Amy, pero hindi siya palaging pinupuri sa ngalan ng self-image. Kakaunti lang hinihingi niya. Hindi madalas madama ni Michael na mapintasan si Amy at hindi ipagtanggol ni Martha si Amy sa kanya. Tila parehong komportable si Amy sa kanyang 2 magulang at masayang in-explore ang kanyang paligid. Sa multi-generational family therapy, yun nga, gaya ng sabi nila, may involved na isa. Yung kwento nila Amy, Martha at Michael, nung una, parang ang ang sinusunod lang ni Michael ay si Martha. Kahit alam ni Michael yung pinaka-the best, hanggang sa dumating yung anak nila, si Amy, kasi ang akala ni Martha ay hindi, kumbaga parang makukulangan sa attention si Amy, pero hanggang sa nagkaroon sila ng sariling oras para sa sarili nila, doon nila napagtanto parehas na na nag-aalala sila bilang isang magulang at hindi sila nag-aalala dun sa anak nila. Virginia Satir. She developed conjoined family therapy, a human validation process model that emphasized communication and emotional experiencing. Virginia Satir, dinevelop niya ang conjoined family therapy. Ang conjoined family therapy ay umaasa sa pagkakapareho para makatulong sa pamilya. Ang miyembro ay nakikipag-usap ng may katapatan or pagiging honest. Ang kanilang presence ay nanghihikayat sa kanila na makapasok sa kung ano ang makabuluhan sa loob upang maging mas ganap na tao. Tinawag ito ni Virginia Satir na making contact. Pinalalawak nito ang kapayapaan ng isa sa kapayapaan sa pagitan ng mga tao. Halimbawa, kunyari ako isang therapist. May lumapit sa aking lalaki at sinabi na halata ng anak niya na tinatago nila ang nanay ng mga bata. Ngunit halata na ito ng mga bata. At hindi niya alam kung paano ito haharapin at sasabihin sa kanyang mga anak. Hinikayat ng therapist o hinikayat ko ang lalaki na sabihin sa mga anak niya ang totoo. Lumapit ang lalaki at sinabi sa mga anak niya ang totoo na hindi na nila makikita ang kanilang ina dahil sinasaktan nito ang dalawang niyang mga anak. Ipiniliwanag ng ama ang lahat ng may katapatan at bukal sa loob. Ipinaliwanag niya sa kanyang anak ang lahat. At sa bandang huli, naintindihan naman ito ng dalawa niyang anak. Kumbaga, kay Virginia Satir, ang conjoined family therapy is yung parang magiging honest ka or parang tutulungan ka ng therapist para sabihin mo dun sa client mo or sa may problema ka, sabihin mo dun yung totoo. Parang guide lang siya, nagiging guide lang ang therapist para hikayatin ka na sabihin yung totoo na bukal sa loob mo. Carl Whitaker. He is the creator of symbolic experiential family therapy, a freewheeling, intuitive approach to helping families open channels of interaction. His goal was to facilitate individual autonomy while retaining a sense of belonging in the family. Ayon sa kanya, ang symbolic experiential family ay yung nakikita niya ang therapist na isang aktibo na kalahok na pumapasok sa proseso ng pamilya. Kumbaga siya ang nagiging pinakamataas para maayos yung problem ng isang family. Ayon rin kay Whitaker, ang family therapy ay natututong magparaya at kung minsan ay lumikha ng pagkakabalisa sa isang pamilya at pagkatapos ang therapist ay kung paano sasali sa mga pamilya upang maging mas tunay at mas malinaw. Dito naman, during the family therapy, ang role ng therapist is to stir things up. Kumbaga, during the session, minemake sure niya na lahat ng family members ay makakapag-express ng gusto nilang sabihin rather than focusing lang sa isang member ng family. Magsisimula siya sa pag-create ng anxiety or like confrontation kasi para sa kanya doon mas magiging real and transparent ang every member ng family. After creating chaos, tsaka pa mag-join ang client para naman ma-resolve ang struggle na meron ang family. Example, may session ka for the family therapy. Ang therapist will start by pushing pressure sa lahat ng family members hanggang makita natin ang lahat and pinaka-cause ng struggle nila. Afterwards naman, yung session will be supported pa din by the guidance of the therapist. Salvador Minuchin began to develop structural family therapy in the 1960s through his work with delinquent boys from poor families at the Weltwick School in New York, working with colleges at the Philadelphia Child Guidance Clinic in the 1970s. Minuchin refined the theory and practice of structural family therapy. Ayon kay Minuchin, binuo niya ang strategic family para mag-rely sa technique na kung saan ang technique na yon ay kilala bilang family mapping. Ang family mapping ay tinutulungan tayo para ma-uncover at maintindihan ang pattern ng isang behavior at ang pattern ng isang interactions within the family. Example, during the process, ang therapist ay nagka-create ng isang visual representation which ina-identify niya ang family problems and how those issues maintain sa family dynamics. Tapos, during the process, dito makikita o ma-observe ng therapist ang family rules, patterns ng behavior, at yung family structures na kung saan mas natutulungan ang therapist para mas maintindihan kung paano nakikita ng isang individual ang sarili niya within sa family na yon. After ng initial process, ang therapist is i-observe ang family during ng sessions and sa home environment para masubaybayan ang interactions and para makapag-develop ng hypothesis tungkol sa nature ng family relationships and interactions patterns. J. Haley and Chloe Madanes founded the Washington School of Strategic Family Therapy in the 1970s. After Haley had led the Mental Research Institute in Palo Alto, California, and later Philadelphia Child Guidance Center where he spent a brief period with Salvador Minuchin and colleges. Haley blended structural family therapy with the concepts of hierarchy, power, and strategic interventions. Ayon naman kay J. Haley and Chloe Madanes, ang strategic family therapy ay isang short-term family therapy treatment that is madalang na ginagamit sa families na may children or adolescents. Kumbaga, ginagamit siya sa, parang mailap siya gamitin sa family na may children or adolescents who are dealing with behavioral issues. Example, ang isang therapist ay nagde-designs ng isang interventions within the family para gayahin ang pakikipag-ugnayan at pag-uusap ng isang family just to solve the problem, which is parang specific siya doon sa structure ng family at para makapag-create ng behavioral change. Ang ganitong uri ng therapy ay naghahangad na matukoy at baguhin ang pattern that makes up the family environment. By addressing family behaviors, interactions that contribute to problem behaviors that contribute to problem behavior, ito ay nakakatulong sa mga pamilya upang mas mapagtagumpayan or maabot nila ang goal nila kasama ang mga bata na kung saan yung issues na yon, yung ini-experience nila at parang masosolusyonan. The family systems perspectives. The family systems perspectives. A family systems perspective holds that individuals are best understood through assessing the interactions between and among family members. The developmental behavior of one family member is inextricably interconnected with others in the family. Para sa akin, ang family systems perspective is a way, daan siya or way siya to make sense of human behavior by focusing on the interactions between people in a family. Kumbaga ay, interaction siya ng mga tao na bumubuo sa isang pamilya. Ang family system therapy din ay ang isa sa pinakamahusay para maunawaan ang interactions between among the members of the family. Ang ugali ng isang member ng family ay palaging connected sa ibang miyembro ng pamilya. It also defines the family unit as a complex social system in which members interact to influence each other's behavior. This perspective is grounded on the assumptions on that client's problematic behavior may 1. Serve a function or purpose for the family. Kumbaga, maglilingkod ka sa tungkulin or layunin para sa pamilya mo. 2. Be unintentionally maintained by family process. Yung parang hindi mo naman intention na mapanatili sa pamamagitan ng family process. Hindi mo sinasadya yun. 3. Be a function of the family's inability to operate productively. Maging isang function ng kawalan ng kakayahan ng pamilya na gumawa ng produktibo. 4. Be a symptom of dysfunctional patterns handed down across generations. All these assumptions challenge the more traditional intraphysic frameworks for conceptualizing human problems and their formation. Ang lahat ng assumptions na to daw ay isang traditional na framework para makapag-conceptualize ng problema at tinutulungan tayo para buuin tayo bilang isang tao. The client is connected to living systems. Therefore, a treatment approach that comprehensively addresses the family as well as the identified client is required. Ang isang client is connected sa mga sistema ng pamumuhay. Kinakailangan ng isang diskarte sa paggamot sa komprehensibong tumatalakay sa family, pati na rin ang nakikilala niya bilang isang kliyente. Differences between individual approaches. The individual therapist may focus on obtaining an accurate diagnosis, perhaps using the DSM-4-TR. Begin therapy with an immediately. Focus on the causes, purposes, and cognitive, emotional, and behavioral processes involved in Anne's depression. Be concerned with Anne's individual experiences and perspectives. Intervene in ways designed to help and cope. The systematic therapist may explore the system for the family process and rules, perhaps using a genogram. Invite Anne's mother, father, and sister into therapy with her. Focus on the family relationships within which the continuation of Anne's depression makes sense. Be concerned with transgenerational meanings, rules, cultural and gender perspectives within the system, and even the community and larger systems affecting the family. Intervene in ways designed to help change Anne's context. Systematic therapists do not deny the importance of the individual in the family system, but they believe an individual systematic affiliations and interactions have more power in the person's life than a single therapist could ever hope to have. Kumbaga dito, ang systematic therapist daw ay hindi nagde-deny sa kahalagahan ng isang individual sa system ng family. Naniniwala sila na may kaakibat at pakikipag-ugnayan ng isang individual ay may kapangyarihan sa buhay ng isang tao kaysa sa isang single therapist na umaasa na magkaroon.
Adlerian family therapy. Adler was the first to notice that the development of children within the family constellation, his space for family system, was heavily influenced by birth order. A basic assumption of modern Adlerian family therapy is that both parents and children often become locked in repetitive, negative interactions based on mistaken goals that motivate all patients involved. So, naniniwala si Adler na yung kakulangan ng pakiramdam sa isang pamilya ay maaring maging resulta ng pagkakasunod-sunod sa kapanganakan, lalo na kung ang tao ay nakakaranas ng personal na pagpapawalang halaga sa murang edad o maaaring dahil ito sa pagkakaroon ng pisikal na limitasyon o kawalan ng pakikiramay or pakikisalamuha sa isang lipunan para sa ibang tao. So, nag-research ako na meron daw 4 stages ng Adlerian therapy. Una is engagement. Ito yung isa sa mapagkakatiwalaan daw na therapeutic therapy. Ito yung binubuo sa pagitan ng isang therapist and client na sumasang-ayon silang magtulungan upang maging epektibong matugunan yung isang problema. Tapos, next one is assessment. Pag sinabing assessment, ito yung inaanyayahan ng therapist ang individual na magsalita tungkol sa kanyang personal na kasaysayan, paniniwala, damdamin at mga motibo. Nakakatulong ito na ipakita ang pangkahalatang pattern ng pamumuhay ng tao, kabilang ang mga salik na sa una ay maaring isipin na hindi gaanong mahalaga o hindi naugnay sa taong nasa therapy. The next one is insight. Ito naman ay tinutulungan ng taong nasa therapy na bumuo ng mga bagong paraan ng pag-iisip tungkol sa kanyang sitwasyon. And then the last one is reorientation. hinihikayat ng therapist ang individual na gumawa ng kasiyasiya at epektibong mga aksyon na nagpapatibay sa bagong insight nito o nagpapadali sa karagdagang insight. Multi-generational family therapy by Murray Bowen, 1978, was one of the developers of mainstream family therapy. His family systems theory, which is a theoretical and clinical model that evolved from psychoanalytic principles and practices, is sometimes referred to as multi-generational family therapy. He contended that problems manifested in one's current family will not significantly change until relationship patterns in one family of origin are understood and directly challenged. So, ang multi-generational family therapy daw ay naglalayong tulungan ang mga miyembro ng pamilya mula sa iba't ibang henerasyon na magkaroon ng isang hindi agresibo at hindi nababalisang komunikasyon na nagbibigay daan para sa pagkakaisa pati na rin ang malusog na paghihiwalay kung kinakailangan. Tinitingnan nito ang kasalukuyang dysfunction ng family bilang isang produkto ng mga generational pattern. The cause of an individual's problems can be understood only by viewing the role of the family as emotional unit. One of Bowen's key concepts is triangulation, a process in which trials result in 2 against 1 experience. Bowen assumed that triangulation could easily happen between family members and the therapist, which is why Bowen placed so much emphasis on his trainees becoming aware of their own family of origin issues. Another major contribution of Bowen's theory is the notion of differentiation of self, which involves both the psychological separation of intellect and emotion and independence of self from others. Ang triangulation ay isang terminong ginagamit upang ilarawan kapag ang isang tao ay gumagamit ng pagbabanta or pagmamanipula. Isang anyo ng pagmamanipula ang triangulation at ito ay kinabibilangan ng paggamit ng hindi direktang komunikasyon kadalasan sa likod ng isang tao. Yung isa sa example nito is if a parent refuses to acknowledge their children's personality and individualism, and at the same time, siblings are treated very differently and discouraged from communicating with one another except through the parents. So, that's triangulation. Human validation process model, at about the same time that Bowen was developing his approach, Virginia Satir, 1983, began emphasizing family connection. Her therapeutic work had already led her to believe in the value of a strong, nurturing relationship based on interest and fascination with those in her care. So, merong therapeutic belief si Virginia Satir. Ito yung therapy needs focus on health and possibilities instead of pathology. People connect on the basis of being similar and grow on the basis of being different. Parents often repeat the familiar patterns from their growing up times even if the patterns are dysfunctional. And appreciating and accepting past increases our ability to manage our present. And ayun, yung isa sa pinakamahalagang belief niya is congruence and high self-esteem are major goals in the Satir model. Satir 1988 outlined 4 communication stances that people tended to adopt under stress. Number 1 is blaming. It is when one shifts responsibility to someone else in an effort to preserve the self. Number 2 is placating. It's just the opposite, taking the blame to protect someone else from being held responsible or trying to make everyone happy so others will be happy with that person. Number 3 is super reasonable. Position is done to maintain control of one's messy or painful emotions. This person will respond with facts and sound very much like computer. Number 4 is irrelevance. It is any distracting communication used to avoid stress or pain altogether. It is what people say when they are ignoring problems right in front of them. So, ayun nga, the blamer is critical, complaining, and fault finder. They don't take responsibility for their part in things. Hence, will make it all about the other, saying things like, if only you hadn't done that, everything would have been alright. It's your fault. So, the next one naman is placating. The placator has low self-esteem and often feels helpless or worthless. They want peace at any price. Placators, they don't like saying no to anyone. They are yes people, often saying things like whatever makes you happy. They don't like rocking boat. They fear being found lacking and imperfect and yearn to belong and be loved. So, the next one naman is the super reasonable. Sila yung mga hindi emosyonal at parang robot. And nagtataglay sila ng matinding pagnanais na kontrolin ang kanilang sarili at ang ibang tao. And the last one is the irrelevance. So, they are erratic, purposeless and sometimes out of touch with reality. The underlying principle of this style is, if I ignore the problem, it doesn't exist. Maybe it will go away or take care of itself. So, confronting problem is painful and far too risky. They are hard to pin down and will often use humor as an avoidance strategy. So, based on Virginia Satir and her team of the researchers estimated that roughly 50% of the population are placators, 30% blamers, 15% super reasonable, and 0.5% are the irrelevance. The antidote to this stress communication is congruence, by which Satir, grounded or centered, is able to both share what she or he is feeling and ask for what is needed. Families in therapy are almost never congruent, but it helps a great deal if the counselor or therapist is. So, pag sinabi natin congruence, ito yung term used to describe a condition in therapy when a therapist is what he is in psychotherapeutic relationship. That is the relationship between the client. A therapist is genuine and without front or facade, openly being the feelings and attitudes which at that moment are flowing in him, a unified or integrated or congruent person. Congruence occurs for the therapist where there is accurate matching of experience with awareness. The therapist is up with the feelings. Carl Whittaker, 1976, was a pioneer in symbolic experiential family therapy, clearly an application of existential therapy to family systems. Whittaker stressed choice, freedom, self-determination, growth, and actualization. Whittaker was clearly more confrontive in his realness than Satir, who was more nurturing. So, experiential therapy is an immersive, hands-on form of therapy that uses expressive tools and modalities. It can help you explore difficult situations, process your emotions, and see things from a different perspective. It can also promote creative expression. Structural strategic family therapy. The origins of structural family therapy can be traced to the early 1960s when Salvador Minuchin was conducting therapy, training, and research with delinquent boys from poor families at Wilwick School in New York. Minuchin's 1974 central idea was that an individual's symptoms are best understood from the vantage point of interactional patterns or sequences within a family, and further, structural changes must occur in a family before an individual's symptoms can be reduced or eliminated. The goals of structural family therapy are twofold. Number 1 is reduce symptoms of dysfunction. Number 2 is bring about structural change within the system by modifying the family's transactional rules and developing more and appropriate boundaries. So, kapag sinabing structural family therapy, ito yung it suggests that dysfunction family relationships can create stress and mental health problems for members of the family. And by addressing how members of the family relate to one another, the goal is to improve communication and relationships to create positive changes for both individual family members and the family unit as a whole. In the last decade, feminism, multiculturalism, and postmodern social constructionisms have all centered the family therapy field. These models are more collaborative, treating clients individuals, couples, or families as experts in their own lives. The therapeutic conversations start with the counselor in a not knowing position in which clients are approached with curiosity and interest. These more recent approaches to family therapy challenge what Beckvar 2009 called first order cybernetics that has been part of family therapy since the time of Adler. First order cybernetics views the counselor and therapist as an observer who is outside of the system, can assess what is going on, and can promote change all without ever becoming part of the system. Feminist and postmodern of family therapy are based on the perspective of second-order cybernetics, that is, the family practitioner becomes part of the family system and just by being present with the family changes it. So, sa first-order cybernetics, they stated that it is a system whose operation we attempt to understand by observing what goes into and what comes out of it. Analysis of inputs and outputs. In addition, we place ourselves outside the system as observers of what is going on inside the system. We are more interested in understanding the interaction and relationships within the system. The observer stays outside of the system, being observed, and views him or herself as being in a position to facilitate adjustment in the system without taking into consideration his or her participation. And the second order cybernetic has shift its focus from behavioral analysis based on the inputs and outputs with an emphasis on the environment to an recursive analysis that emphasizes the internal structure of the system and mutual connectedness of the observed and observer. Structural strategic family therapy. The origins of structural family therapy can be traced to the early 1960s when Salvador Munichin was conducting therapy, training, and research with delinquent boys from poor families at Wilwick School in New York. Munichin's 1974 central idea was that an individual's symptoms are best understood from the vantage point of interactional patterns or sequences within a family. And further, structural changes must occur in a family before an individual's symptoms can be reduced or eliminated. The goals of structural family therapy are twofold. Number 1 is reduce symptoms of dysfunction. Number 2 is bring about structural change within the system by modifying the family's transactional rules and developing more and appropriate boundaries. So, kapag sinabing structural family therapy, ito yung it suggests that dysfunction family relationships can create stress and mental health problems for members of the family. And by addressing how members of the family relate to one another, the goal is to improve communication and relationships to create positive changes for both individual family members and the family unit as a whole. Solution-Focused Therapy by Steve Deshazer, 1985. It is the methods that focus only on solutions. He did not even need to know what the problem was that brought that family to therapy. Georgia, 1999, created social constructionism accepts that there is reality. It is concerned with how knowledge is constructed and understood. Michael White and David Epstein, 1990, created the most influential of the postmodern approaches, the narrative therapy. It is a form of therapy that aims to separate the individual from the problem, allowing the individual to externalize their issues rather than internalize them. It relies on the individual's own skills and sense of purpose to guide them through difficult times. So, kapag sinabing solution-focused therapy, it is a strength-based approach to psychotherapy based on solution building rather than problem solving. Unlike other forms of psychotherapy that focus on present problems and past causes, Solution-focused therapy concentrates on how your current circumstances and future hopes. And kapag sinabi naman nating narrative therapy, it is a style of therapy that helps people become and embrace being an expert in their own lives. In narrative therapy, there is an emphasis on the stories that you develop and carry with you through your life. So, the next one is the table ng outline ng mga nabanggit na klase ng therapies kanina. So, ito yung a comparison of 6 systematic viewpoints in family therapy. First is the Adlerian family therapy. So, yung key figures is na Alfred Adler, Rudolf Dreikurs, and Oscar Christensen, and Manfred Segard. Tapos, sa multi-generational family therapy naman is si Murray Bowen. Sa human validation process is si Virginia Satir. Sa experiential or symbolic family therapy is si Carl Whitaker. And structural family therapy is si Salvador Minishin. Tapos sa strategic family therapy is si Jay Haley and Chloe Mandains. Tapos time focus naman is sa Adlerian family therapy is present with some references to the past. And then sa multi-generational family therapy naman is present and past family of origin, 3 generations. And then the next one is human validation process model is here and now. Then sa experiential family therapy is the present, and the structural family therapy is present and past. And the last one is the strategic family therapy, which is present and future. And then the therapy goals of Adlerian family therapy naman is enable parents as leaders, unlock mistaken goals, and interactional patterns in family, promotion of effective parenting. And sa multi-generational family therapy naman is differentiate the self, change the individual within the context of the system, decrease anxiety. Sa human validation process model is promote growth, self-esteem, and connection, health, family, rich, congruent communication, and interaction. And experiential family therapy naman sa therapy goals ay promote spontaneously creativity, autonomy, and ability to play. And structural family therapy is restructure family organization, change dysfunctional transactional patterns. And the last one is the strategic family therapy, which is eliminate presenting problem, change dysfunctional patterns, interrupt sequence. The next one is the role and function of the therapies nung 6 na therapies natin. The first one is educator, motivational investigator, collaborator. The next one is guide, objective researcher, teacher, monitor of owner activity. The third one is active facilitator, resource detective, model for congruence. Then the fourth one is family coach, challenger, model for change through play. Then the fifth one is friendly uncle, stage manager, promoter of change in family structure. And the last one is the active director of change and problem solver. Then the process of change naman nung 6 therapies is formation of relationship based on mutual respect, investigation of birth order and mistaken goals, education. The second one is questions and cognitive processes lead to differentiation and understanding of family of origin. And the third one is family is help to move from status through chaos to new possibilities and new integrations. And the fourth one is awareness and seeds of change are planted in therapy confrontations. And the fifth one is therapist joins the family in a leadership role, change structure, set boundaries. The last one is change occurs through action-oriented, directive, and paradoxical interventions. And the techniques and innovations of the 6 family therapies are the first one, family constellation, typical day, goal disclosure, natural or logical consequences. The second one is genograms, dealing with family of origin issues. the triangulating relationships. The third one is empathy, touch, communication, sculpting, role-playing, family life, chronology. And then the fourth one is the co-therapy, self-disclosure, confrontation, use of self as change agent. And the fifth one is joining and accommodating and balancing, tracking, boundary making, and enactments. And the last one is reframing, directive, and paradox of amplifying, pretending, enactments.
A multi-layered process of family therapy. Family are multi-layered systems that both affect and are affected by larger systems in which they are embedded. Families can be described in terms of their individual members and the various roles they play, the relationships between the members, and the sequential patterns of the interactions and the purposes of these sequences serve. Family systems therapy is a form of psychotherapy that focuses on the family as a whole unit. People are influenced by their family, but each person also influences their family member or their entire family. When something affects one member, it can have a resounding impact on every other member of the family. 4 general movements of the process of family therapy are forming the relationship, conducting an assessment, hypothesizing and sharing meaning, and facilitating change. Forming a relationship. Family system therapists have a wide range of metaphors to describe the role of the therapist and the therapeutic process. It is believed that a multi-layered approach to family therapy is best supported by a collaborative therapist-client relationship in which mutual respect, caring, empathy, and a genuine interest in others is primary. So, it is strongly centered on collaborative therapist-client relationship. It is believed that in order to form a relationship, all the characteristics such as mutual respect, caring, empathy, and genuine interest should be considered and attained. Directed actions and enactments are most useful when they are a joint venture of both the therapist and the family. Therapists begin to form a relationship with clients from the moment of first contact. So, therapists began to form a rapport or a relationship from the very first time they met the client. In addition, family members should also introduce themselves and express their concern to the therapist. From the moment of first face-to-face contact, good therapeutic relationship starts with efforts at making contact with each person present. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina na from the very first moment na nag-met yung therapist and yung client, kailangan doon magsisimula or kailangan magsimula na doon yung rapport para mas maganda yung magiging relationship and mas magiging collaborative and effective yung magiging therapy. Whether it is called joining, engagement, or simple care and concern, it is the therapist's responsibility to meet each person with openness and warmth. Generally, its focus is to help reduce anxiety the family may be feeling. So, therapy approaches that are focused on families can be helpful for a lot of different issues that affect family members. Some additions and problems that it may be used is to help reduce anxiety that the family may be experiencing. Therapeutic process and structure are part of the therapist's job description. Understanding family process is almost always facilitated by how questions. Then questions beginning with what, why, where, or when tend to overemphasize content details. All change in human system starts with understanding and accepting things as they are. Family processes is always facilitated by how questions. The aim of this approach is to understand the presenting problem and identify alternative ways of coping. It is really important that understanding and empathy is present because it is much easier and more effective relationship can achieve. So, doon kailangan ng validation and encouragement ng therapist sa kanyang client and yung cooperation naman ng client sa kanyang therapist. So, the second general movements of the process of family therapy is conducting an assessment. Beginning counselors and therapists will often find that more formal assessment procedures such as genograms will allow the family structure and stories to be presented in a clearer and more orderly manner. So, ano nga ba yung genogram? Genogram is a popular tool among therapists delving in family therapy. It provides detailed information on the interpersonal relationship within a family. The past and the present aspects impact current situation. So, gano'n naman palagi kung ano yung nangyayari na at nangyayari ngayon will affect the current situation, will impact, makakaapekto siya sa magiging situation. A genogram illustrates not only the medical history but also the relationship of the family members across generations. So, co-constructing a genogram, most family practitioners starts with a map of the family that comes to the therapy, which is going to be presented in the next slide. The parents are listed with their name, age, and date of birth in either a rectangle for men and circle for women. If there are multiple relationships involved, they are generally indicated in chronological order with men listed on the left and women listed on the right. So in this slide, you will see an example of genogram describing and showing the family relationship wherein there are symbols used like double square, double circle, circle, lines, and etc. Symbols used in genogram. Double square or double circle, yung as shown in the previous slide, indicate the index person or whom the genogram is focused. So, kapag yung pangalan ng tao is nasa double square or double circle, nandoon yung index person or kung sino yung talagang tinutukoy or doon nakafocus yung makikita mo agad yung sa relationship. Upside down triangle in a square or circle indicate a gay man or lesbian woman. Shading bottom half of a square and circle indicates substance abuse. So you can also see double parallel lines indicate a strong relationship between two people kapag double parallel lines. Then pag three parallel lines indicate a fused or enmeshed relationship. So kung sa double parallel lines is ang dinedescribe niya is strong relationship. So sa three parallel lines doon nyo ma-distinguish or magigets kaagad na kapag may nakita kayo na 3 parallel lines, so ibig sabihin medyo confused or medyo may confusion doon sa relationship. And then pag dotted line, distant relationship, and then zigzag line is conflict is indicated. So ibig sabihin meron talagang problem na existing kapag merong zigzag line. Pag naman 3 parallel, fuse. Pag naman dotted, distant, and double parallel is strong relationship. Family members are often the best people to choose a focus. Family practitioner often use circular or relational questioning to get at the systematic issues presented. So, sa family systems therapy, gumagamit ng circular or relational questioning. Ano nga ba yung circular or relational questioning? So, circular or relational questioning can bring clarity and offers a valuable shift in our perspective, according to Rogers and Cooper. Placing ourselves in the shoes of other member by imagining what they think and feel can help develop an understanding of why they behave as they do. So, kailangan mayroon kang may empathy ka doon sa client mo na kunyari, ikaw yung nasa posisyon niya. Kailangan maisip mo kung ano yung nararamdaman at naiisip niya para mas maintindihan mo and mas makapagbigay ka ng accurate or yung tama at mas makakatulong sa kanya. So, example nito is behavior. A focus on behavior can help in understanding what has led to the situation or problem. Such question can often be more neutral and may appear less judgmental, paying attention to how someone acts rather than their values. So, ibig sabihin, meron kasing mga questions na kapag tinanong mo, masyado siyang parang nang-judge ka agad. So, as a therapist, dapat hindi ka ganun. Kasi, ang goal nga is mapaganda ang situation ng client. So, kailangan less judgmental, yung parang hindi siya ma-offend sa questions mo. Ganon. For example, ang tanong mo sa kanya, how does shouting at your son relate to your beliefs about child rearing? Or, how do you make sense of the difference between his behavior at home and school? So, ganon. Hindi siya judgmental. Neutral lang yung pagkakatanong niya. Ganon. Feelings, pwede din yung feelings. Questioning feelings can be helpful for understanding the meaning and motivations of the behavior while increasing client self-understanding. So, third general movement is hypothesizing and sharing meaning. Hypothesizing flows from the ideas and understanding generated in the assessment process. So, two questions are germane to the form of hypothesizing one chooses to do. Number 1, how much faith do the therapist and the family have in the ideas they generate? And number 2, how much of an influence is the therapist willing to be in the lives of people and families? So, ibig sabihin ng number 1, how much faith do the therapist? Gaano naniniwala or gaano sila both naniniwala doon sa ideas na ma-generate nila. Tapos doon naman sa 2, how much of an influence is the therapist willing to be in the lives of people and families? Gaano makaka-impluwensya yung therapist or gaano siya ka-willing na maka-impluwensya sa lives ng family at or yung mga tao. So, family therapists need to be in charge of the process. Hypothesizing and sharing meaning. Hypothesizing is a central part of the family therapy process. Without it, a therapist is placed on a passive role with no direction. Family therapists stay away from pathologizing people, instead, looking at the bigger picture of family life and trying to hypothesize how this person's symptoms actually tells a story about what is happening in the family. So, feminist and social constructionist, the most expressive of their concern about the misuse of power in therapy. So, yung mga feminist and yung mga social constructionist. So, according to Dracours, use a passionate interest and curiosity to ask questions and gather together the subjective perspectives of a family member. Honor the ideas the individuals brought to their joint understanding. So, passionate interest and curiosity to ask questions and gather together the subjective perspective. It is to consider and to engage without giving up their right to discard from anything that does not fit. Kunyari, merong suggested idea yung therapist. Kapag yung suggested idea ng therapist is hindi fit sa mismong therapy, the therapist should be clear about letting go and letting the family redirect the conversation. So, hindi niya dapat pipilitin dahil lang curious siya, ganun. Hindi niya dapat pipilitin yung client. Kapag hindi siya fit sa mismong therapy, yung idea, the therapist should be clear about letting go and letting the family redirect the conversation. The value of this way of presenting hypothesis is that it invites families and family members to consider and to engage without giving up their right to discard anything that does not fit. And the last general movement is facilitating change. Facilitating change is what happens when family therapy is viewed as a joint or collaborative process. So, joint or collaborative process, kailangan yung client is ginagawa yung part niya and yung therapist is ginagawa yung part niya para mas maging effective yung magiging therapy and yung result is mas maganda sa client and magbe-benefit both the client and the therapist. So, techniques are more important that see the therapist as expert and in charge of making change happen. So, kaya ka nga pumunta sa therapist para may magbago sa'yo. So, important yung mga techniques na gagamitin. Kailangan maganda at appropriate yung mga techniques na gagamitin. Kasi, as therapists, we are the expert ones, we are the professional ones, and as a therapist, kailangan sa'yo magsisimula yung change, or kailangan ikaw ang in charge sa change na mangyayari. So, collaborative approaches requires planning. So, yung collaborative approaches naman, hindi siya yung agad-agad. Pinaplano siya kung paano yung gagawing technique, kung paano yung first, yung relationship mo with your client. Next is yung technique na gagamitin and how you will apply it correctly. So, change is always achievable when a family therapy is viewed as a collaborative process wherein clients and therapists both do their part in order to facilitate change and effective results. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina. Two most common forms for facilitation and change are enactments and assignment of tasks. The internal parts of family members functions best when they are balanced, not polarized, and when the individual experiences personal parts as resources. So, two of the most common forms for facilitation of change are enactments and assignment of tasks. Both of these processes works best when the family co-constructs them with the therapist. Knowing the goals and purposes for our behaviors, feelings, and interactions tends to give us choices about their use. Understanding the patterns we enact in face-to-face relationships, the flows of life, or across generations provides multiple avenues for challenging patterns and the enactment of new possibilities. Family systems therapy from a multicultural perspective. Strengths from a diversity perspective. Many ethnic and cultural groups place great value on the extended family. So, ibig sabihin na extended family, nandoon yung mga grandparents, yung mga tita, tito, yung mga ganon. So, if therapists are working with the individual form of a cultural background that gives special treatment to grandparents, aunts, and uncles, it is easy that it can have a distinct advantage over individual therapy. So, next is Monica McGoldrick, is the most influential leader in the development of both gender and cultural perspectives and frameworks in family practice. Monica and her colleagues approach families like systems anthropologists. They see each family as unique culture whose particular characteristics must be understood. So, each family naman is unique. Hindi naman pare-parehas tayo ng family. Hindi tayo pare-parehas ng pamilya. Hindi pare-parehas ng ugali. Hindi mo pwedeng ikumpara yung family ni ganito sa family ni ganyan o sa family mo. Kasi, meron tayong mga particular characteristics na hindi naman maiintindihan ng ibang family kasi tayo lang yung nakakaintindi dahil tayo lang yung involved sa family na yon. So, Monica McGoldrick uncovers their issues as a couple and makes use of their cultural values to suggest possible solution. She makes authentic connections while also using collaboration, direction, and transparency to reinforce their commitment to change. Families cannot escape sexism and patriarchy that are inherent in all cultures. So, totoo naman na hindi talaga maiiwasan yung mga sexism and patriarchy na nagaganap kahit hanggang ngayon. Family life is where the roles of women can be most limited. The consideration of gender issues in families is the essential framework of family therapy. Perhaps the most difficult integration is figuring out how to honor different cultures in therapy without supporting marginalization or oppression of women. So, ayun talaga yung kinoconsider na medyo mahirap na integration kasi mahirap yung i-honor mo yung different cultures in therapy without supporting marginalization or oppression of women. Yung yung mga sexism, patriarchy, ganun. The word feminist evokes mixed responses in people. Take a moment and honestly reflect on the stereotypes and feelings that women are feeling when you think of feminism. Today, family therapists explore the individual culture of the family to appreciate diversity and to contextualize experiences into larger cultures. Shortcomings from a diversity perspective. A possible shortcoming of the practice of family therapy is practitioners assume Western models of family are universal. So, family therapists are not that wise to consider that Western models of family functioning is universal because there are many cultural variation that can affect to that. So, hindi naman nga kasi di mo siya masasabi na ay parehas lang yan kasi ay ganito naman lahat. Hindi mo pwede siyang i-generalize or parang universal na lang na kung ano yung iba ganun na lahat. There are many cultural variation that can affect to that. It is both affect and affected by the larger systems in which they are embedded.
Please come in. Hello, good morning. I know family was difficult for Francine, a pain for you, but want you to be aware how grateful I am that you were here. Do you know what's it like for you to be here to this?
Well, I have to admit that I don't like it. Today's world is very different than it was before we had no therapy a decade ago. I struggled with drinking at the time, a single point, but I moved past it. I simply stopped on my own. Stan must take that action. He only has to stop.
I've been told that things are better for you if you were sober. You would want Stan's life to also improve.
In many ways, I want his life to better of many methods.
Always breaks your heart. He gives the impression that he just fought upon his own inner strength and stopped drinking. That's funny. I said I believed him. That is what actually transpired. I was prepared to divorce. We're Catholics too. We don't split apart.
So you have experience with this.
Yes, my parents were both drinkers. Dad continued school. She won't admit it, but my sister drinks excessively. She loses her mind over it. Judy's spouse is having an issue. I'm surrounded by alcohol and holidays. I'm so irritated. I wish they'd all simply pass away over time.
The whole family can benefit from this has been working on for a while.
Not everybody. No, I don't drink. Frankie and Judy don't drink. Carl also doesn't appear to have a problem.
Is that how families break up? Into drinkers and non-drinkers respectively?
We also have other issues besides drinking. It's not even the most significant trouble.
Explain that to me.
Struggle is every life. I'm sorry, Friday. That definitely loves Frankie. And everything have been effortlessly for you. Carl also succeeds anything he wants. His mother favors him. Dad and I have fought frequently, and all of us been that content that Stan appears to have that divorce.
From what I recall, Stan gifted Dad and Mom a lot to argue with. He was a perpetual best man looking for another half.
Frankie, when your father was speaking earlier, I could tell that he too was disappointed with Stan and also wanted to do things with perspective. Does that also apply to you?
Yes, I would like his life to be